The videos I have done, yes, they have generated revenue. However, if you go into the creation of it saying, how do I make money off of this? Chances are you will F up the actual creation of it.
What is up, elite video marketers? Today I'm joined by Raj Nathan. Raj is the founder of Startup Hypeman and has been featured on NBC, Forbes, the Huffington Post, TED, and many, many more. Raj is an expert at helping startups pitch themselves so that their companies don't come across as boring. And he is wildly skilled at this. The first piece of media that I encountered by Raj was a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air rap that was aimed at startups. He tweaked the lyrics a little bit. So Raj, right off the bat, tell me what goes into creating one of these rap videos. Walk me through the process.
So the Fresh Prince one, and that was like probably I think the first one that I did for Startup Hypeman. That one was actually on a whim. I don't know, it was like a Tuesday afternoon, and I was like, okay, what would be a good like cold email prospecting strategy here? And you know, I'm a rapper anyways, so I was like, all right, hey, let me redo the Fresh Prince theme. I don't know why like it came to mind so easily. For whatever reason, it did. And so just I don't know, in a single afternoon, I just like rewrote the lyrics, and then I literally put my cell phone on a tripod on my bookshelf, and I recorded the video. I mean, it's funny because if you look at the video, like it's pretty lo-fi. Like, you know, like it's clearly in like my like garden unit apartment office. The video itself is actually, I think, like slightly on a slant downwards because of how the tripod wasn't positioned perfectly. And yeah, I mean, it's funny because like I'm so much more intentional now, but just getting that started off the bat, I was just like, let me experiment. Let me see if this would work. And my plan was I'm going to put this into cold emails, right? What I actually, I did do that, but prior to doing that, I put it up as a LinkedIn post. And I think the post just said like, it was like, look out startups or look out SaaS companies. I'm coming for you. Dropping this video in my upcoming cold email sequence. Would you reply? And the exposure on LinkedIn blew up. And I really wasn't like, I didn't really like seed virality into it or anything like that. I think I just caught like lightning in a bottle with the timing of the post and all that stuff. Right. And it was crazy. Like, I think in a couple days, it got to like 15, 20,000 views. And a bunch of people in that were like, yes, I would totally reply to this. And so this is where to kind of, you didn't ask this, but like given that this is about like video strategy, right? It's not video just for the sake of video. It's like, how do you actually parlay that into something more? And, you know, so you have all these people commenting. Some are just like, haha, you know, others are like, oh yeah, because my question in the post was, would you reply to this in email with this? So a bunch of people were like, yes, I would reply. Others were not directly saying that, but they were like, this is great. And so then I just like kind of like plucked off one by one. I was like, okay, did they fit my client profile? And if they said, yes, I would totally reply to this, I would then connect and DM them and be like, well, hey, you said, I was like, I know you didn't get an email with this, but would you want, you know, do you want to meet? And they were like, oh yeah, totally. Other people proactively DM'd me. They're like, hey, saw your video. I want to meet with you. And then the people who were just like, hey, this is hilarious, or like, love this, makes so much sense, but they didn't directly say, yes, I would meet with you. I would still connect and DM them if they were in my client profile, and I would have some touch point in that message, that follow-up message that was not as direct as like, you said you would meet, but still implied like, hey, maybe we should chat. So the lead flow from it, I don't remember it now because it was like 4 years ago at this point, but the lead flow from it was crazy. And it generated a ton of sales within like 30 days. And then, I mean, it became like a top funnel piece of content for over the next like 2 years to continue to generate revenue over time.
That's epic. And it's kind of like you stumbled across this magic formula where you're pulling something from pop culture that so many people are familiar with, but you're also injecting it into this kind of unique concept of like how many people actually rap their elevator pitches, or like it
Right.
just, the formula is quite interesting to me. And so that, would you say that's like your first aha moment when it came to video marketing and strategy?
Yeah, I would say that was the first aha. I was like, oh, I think I'm onto something here. And then I started to do more over the last few years. So like this is 2022, a little over a year ago in summer of 21, I did a remix of Stan by Eminem and called it Carl, and it was about this sales rep, this SDR named Carl, who keeps trying to like email and call his favorite prospect but can't get a reply. In the same storyline that the song Stan goes by, but rewriting those lyrics, right? Stan is about like a obsessive fan who's trying to meet Eminem. And then this case, it was like an obsessive sales rep trying to meet their prospect and dealing with like all the crap that, if you're a salesperson, like all the, unique things you might do and you still get no reply, all that stuff. So I kind of just like rewrote those lyrics to document the journey, and it's humorous and everything. And that one I decided to go like all out with. Like I got a production team in, recorded a full music video, and it's a 6.5 minute song. It's not short, right? Fresh Prince is over in 70 seconds. Stan is a 6.5 minute instrumental. And I was like, it doesn't work so well if I just do the first verse, because it really builds up by like the third and the fourth verse. And so like you lose a lot of the story in that case if you only do one verse. So, and it gets more interesting, right? Because with each verse in that song, the fan gets more and more like possessive and crazy. So I wanted to introduce that, and I was like, okay, so for something that's this long, the only way I'm going to keep people's attention for 6.5 minutes is if the video is well produced. If it's just me rapping into the microphone for 6.5, people aren't going to watch that, even if the lyrics are good. So I was like, this needs a lot of cutscenes. This needs high production quality. This needs to be visually as funny as the lyrics are making them. And so that one too got really popular. I guess really is relative, but like, I don't know, 20, 30,000 views over the first couple of weeks. And then tons of sales leads out of that. And I think it generated like a $30,000 contract within like 5 or 7 days. So the ROI on that's pretty good, right? Like, I just paid a production team a couple $1,000s to make the video and then my time in recording it.
Totally. I mean, yeah, that makes it totally worth it. But especially for someone who is starting out and might have these crazy ideas or concepts for videos, they got to realize that like that level of production is not necessary, especially given the performance of the Fresh Prince song and video. Like you really just need your phone and a tripod or your phone. Like that's it. And you can start whipping out this content and producing.
Yeah, I think it's like a matter of, like, I would put Carl/Stan as like, that was like a big swing I was going for. I don't go for a big swing every day of the week though, right? Like it's very strategically planned. And that was one where like I did like, I put the video on LinkedIn, and that's my platform of choice, right? Like everything I push to LinkedIn because that's where my audience is. I put it on LinkedIn, sent an email out to the Startup Hypeman newsletter being like, click here, watch this video we just made, right? Separately, sent a personal email to like 60 to 70 people who I know well and was like, hey, I think you'll get a kick out of this. Watch it, right? And that kind of let like the virality engine take place from there and get going. Like the flywheel starts to like take effect. But again, like the Fresh Prince one didn't do all that stuff and it was still popular. So it's a matter, like, yes, you should plan. I wouldn't necessarily recommend like spend some time and have no plan. I think, again, I got lucky with the popularity of the Fresh Prince one, but even though I got lucky with it, I knew how to leverage it the right way.
For sure. For sure. And I think it's interesting too, LinkedIn being your platform of choice specifically for this type of content. Like a lot of people still use LinkedIn as, if they're at some sort of business conference, they'll take one grainy photo of their little table set
Right.
up and it's all janky and they're like so excited to network and meet a bunch of people in the industry, and content like the stuff that you're producing automatically is going to draw more people in and cause a little bit of a buzz, because people are so buttoned up on LinkedIn, and you throw something just a little bit higher quality, a little bit different in there, you're gonna perform well. There's like a baseline of success, I think, that the content is gonna have.
Yeah, it's unexpected. And I will say at this point, 4 years later, now the market has started to catch up a little bit, and edgier, quote unquote, content being put on LinkedIn, or not the traditional B2B content you'd see there. So I think there's even and I think that's a good thing, right? Because now there's more of an appetite for stuff like that. Like people want to see more of it. Yes, there are more people who are already doing it now. But I think now there's that's just it's conditioned people to be like, I do want to see this kind of content in my feed. I don't just want to see the same advice post or the same bad networking photo, etc. And I think the other great part too is, even amidst all of this, I'm pretty sure of the entire user base of LinkedIn, only 2% of the users, maybe less, are actually creators on the platform. Everyone else is a consumer of other people's information, and only 2% of the users are actually actively creating on the platform. So it's just a greenfield of opportunity, depending on who your target audience is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is definitely the one platform outside of TikTok, I think, the one platform that is still optimized for just organic growth. Like you don't need to put a ton of ad spend behind your stuff. So that's just a minefield of opportunity there.
Well, and look at to that point, it's designed for organic growth because as an individual profile on LinkedIn, there is literally there's not a way for you to pay to have your content promoted. A business profile can, but the individual profile has no actual path within their UX to say pay to bump my content. So they're designing the entire thing to be optimized for organic reach of the individual profile, because they want to encourage more creators, as long as you just follow some general mechanics, right? And then for a business profile, pay us a lot of money to have your content reach people.
What are some things that you're doing this year in your video marketing strategy that are different from what you were doing last year? Any major changes that you've made from 2021? All right, guys, I know you want to hear about Raj's 2022 video strategy, but first I have to thank our sponsor, inhousevideographer.com. They are the top training platform for using video to close more sales, increase client retention, and build a powerful magnetic brand. If you want to spend less time training a videographer and accelerate your video marketing capabilities, go grab lifetime access to the training platform at inhousevideographer.com.
I think I'm just increasing the volume, and part of that is due to part of the Carl video last year. In a way, it actually ended up leading to getting a deal with a tech media company where they basically have Startup Hypeman on retainer to create rap videos and other interesting content on their behalf. So as a result of that, the output has increased. I think we've done 4 or 5 rap videos or song videos this year through their brand. The brand is called SalesFeed, the media company. They're a subsidiary of Vidyard, which is a SaaS tool. And so through SalesFeed, we've done 5 or 6 parodies this year, I think. One of them was Nothing But a G Thing by Snoop and Dre, but it was nothing but a gong thing to announce the official tech integration between Gong and Vidyard. Another one was Writin' Dirty, a spoof of Chameleonaire's Ridin' Dirty from like 18 years ago, but about like as a seller, you don't want to be writing bad emails. Like you don't want to be caught writing dirty. We did one that was instead of No Diggity by Blackstreet, it was No B2B. And it was about like being able to humanize your outreach, more. And then towards the end of summer, we expanded the creativity a little bit and did a spoof of Californication by Red Hot Chili Peppers. So I had to actually be like, can I sing this? Yeah, okay, I can do it decent enough. And then we made it Sellin' on Vacation instead of Californication. So it's like, you didn't hit your quota and now you're stuck selling on vacation. Just pumping out more things like that. And then I also just started to like toy with the shorter form TikTok style videos. I have a TikTok account that I created like a month ago. I haven't done anything with it yet, but like starting to get some videos produced to be able to post onto that platform and then repost onto other platforms. The one thing I do want to point out, regardless of like, is it happening this year or last year or the year before, is the reason why I believe these pieces of content resonate with others is because whether it's the Fresh Prince one, which is 70 seconds, or whether it's Carl/Stan, which is 6.5 minutes, or the Chili Peppers song, which is like 4 minutes, 5 minutes, or Writin' Dirty, which was like it's just one hook, one verse. So it's like 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. The key with all of these is that it's not a 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, 6 minute product pitch. Like the majority of the lyrics, especially if it's like a self-promo thing, so like Carl and Fresh Prince would be the two big examples there. The Fresh Prince one, I think, is 70 seconds long. It's not until like 50 seconds in that you even hear the phrase Startup Hype Man uttered. Everything up until that point is just empathizing with where that target audience is on their journey today. And then using that level of empathy to be like, so here's how we could help. The Carl video, which was not designed to really be a product pitch at all, whereas the Fresh Prince ultimately was, there's a one-word mention in the last verse of Startup Hype Man. And it reflects back more positively and more people see the Startup Hype Man brand because I'm not being like, here's a 5-minute rap about how we can solve all your problems and we're great and we have these features and attributes to us, right? It's just like creating for the sake of getting something that resonates with them. And as a result, if they feel you get them, they will want to learn more about how you might be able to help them.
Totally. No, it's empathetic storytelling that people just connect with and find either humorous or endearing or whatever. However they connect with that piece of media, that's what's actually going to reel them in. And then once they have that context and sit with you for the 30 seconds or 40 seconds and then you pitch, it's like, oh, well, this is dope. Like, how could I not want to work with this person?
Right.
How are you building your team around stuff like this? I imagine that most of the brands and people that you work with want the rap and the spoofs written by you, but do you have a certain way that you're training your team?
So my team is not focused on the content production side, right? Like the team is client services for the pitch development work that we do for startups, right? So if it's these like one-off content creation requests, as you know, I'm doing that all by myself. In the case of SalesFeed, the media company I mentioned before, they are like that's a collaboration effort with SalesFeed on the video production side. So like we'll actually like brainstorm together what's a good song we could spoof, what are some themes we want to generate in this. I'll put together the lyrics. Sometimes someone on their team, the head of their team, Tyler, will like jump into like this Google Doc and be like, what about this for a hook, right? And we'll collaborate in that respect. And then we will then, after the song is recorded, we'll get out this whole storyboard document to be like, okay, what does the video need to be to represent this? And then different people are responsible for like recording different things, and then their team actually puts together the finished product. Because usually their stuff will involve other, like random people who are like adding video content into it. But my specific team, I have not, at least yet, brought into the content creation side, with the exception of my media and operations coordinator, Nadine, who is handling a lot of the back end stuff. So like if I shoot her, like I'm like, hey, 30-second video I just made, can you chop it down or whatever, or like add a banner around this? Like she's got that stuff covered.
Man, one man operation here.
Just on that part, right? Just on that part.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But, so one of the things that has come out of this over the last few years is other companies requesting songs on their behalf, whether it's sales feed, which we're doing a lot, or other companies who just want like a one-off like theme song for their company, if you will. Right? So in that process, I make sure the lyrics are approved by them before I actually record it. And I think what's interesting is nearly every time, I think we've done this like 5 times now for different companies. And in that case, the idea is like, let's make this a product. Like, let's ultimately make this a product pitch, right? I think what's interesting is I'll have to like get them to see the point that I told you earlier. Like, they'll have this concern, like, oh, I feel like we're not saying enough about that the product can do this. And I'm like, we shouldn't be. Or they'll like go into the lyric sheet and they'll be like, I'll have some way I deduced talking about their product into a digestible way that's going to rhyme and be on beat and make sense with the previous lyrics. And they'll be like, could you change this to instead say auto-optimized, engine or whatever? And I'll be like, I can, just so you know, the entire song will need to be rewritten if we make that one change. And they're like, oh, okay. And I have to always talk them off that ledge of like, be okay with the fact that we're not saying more about the product. That's why people will listen to this, because we're not doing a puff piece that's 85 seconds, 90 seconds, just talking about all the things your product can do.
Well, that's the other thing about sales is you want to simplify. You want your things to be your pitch to be punchy. You want your content to be easily consumable. Like the less calories someone has to spend consuming your content and understanding your message, the better. So that I imagine that with the years of speaking and pitching and everything that you have, that all kind of culminates into this skill of quick hitting, like punchy rap videos.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, like the elevator pitch formula that we use for pitch development with our clients, like in a way, these songs are like a musical representation of that exact same formula.
Copy matters more than anyone realizes.
Mm-hmm.
And the storytelling, if you got to have the actual beats of a good story.
Yep.
All right, so before I let you go, I want to know who your biggest video inspirations are. Like, whose playbook are you kind of stealing moves from, and who are you consuming on a regular basis?
So from not just video, but from overall content, actually a friend of mine, Devin Reed, does a great job with teaching people about content creation. And his site is The Reeder, REEDER.co, TheReeder.co. Aside from that, there are a couple other people, but I tend to look outside of the world of business and see what's interesting in how people are creating. So I honestly, like more than anything, I like default to like entertainment. And I'm like, okay, what's happening in entertainment that I can borrow, or I can say, hey, that's interesting that they went with that approach. What might that mean in the business world, right? So like if I see Beyonce drops a new album, right, and Break My Soul becomes this like really popular single, I'm like, okay, so this is actually a trend. Like that's a house music song, right? That's really what she's created. It's not an R&B song. It's not a rap song. It's a house music song. It's not even a pop song. So I'm like, okay, so maybe there's a trend back towards house music. How might that apply to potential content that could be created? Does it change the type of background music that might be in just like an explainer video? Does it mean creating a song that models that could work? Does it mean, and that's an example, right? so I like directly music is one example, but I'll even look at like it's interesting. ESPN presented this game in this way today. Like they use this like visual effect, or like they stopped doing this type of sponsor read and did it this way instead during the game. I think a great example that I always have looked at is professional wrestling. The way like WWE produces their content, both live on TV as well as on their social media channels. Right? I think there's a lot to learn from how they do it to get people to, I mean, people laugh at pro wrestling, but WWE has a bigger social media following than the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and the NHL combined. Those 4 leagues combined don't have as big of a social media following as the armpit of America, professional wrestling.
No, I have been, my business partner and I have been saying this for so long. Like WWE, you laugh at it, but there's some golden nuggets of.
It's a content machine. Like everything they do is a form of content.
It's a media company. It's a media company with like a guise of events and sports.
Correct.
Well, Raj, thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything that you wanted to share that I didn't give you a chance to?
I think we covered it. I would just say as a parting shot for everyone, just whether it's video or other types of content, lead with empathy. And I will say this as well. The videos I have done, yes, they have generated revenue. However, if you go into the creation of it saying, how do I make money off of this? Chances are you will F up the actual creation of it. So you've got to like put like money-making aspirations to the side and just create because you want to have an impact on the audience. The revenue will come if you then design a strategy around the content, but keep the content itself pure, so to speak. I think the easiest like comparison you could have to that would be let's say you're reading someone's LinkedIn post or you're reading someone's really good blog post and you're loving it. And then the last 2 paragraphs, it's like, so download my ebook. And you're like, God, really? Like, did you have to do that? This was so good until you had to like throw in that hard pitch right there. So think about how that mindset, like when you're creating, your audience is going to have that same reaction if you do that, whether it's your written content, your audio content, or your video content.
Totally. No, you got to start with the message, start with the story. Let the content do its job. Like it should be intriguing. It should be reason enough for people to give it another click and check out your website and follow up with action. So, Raj, this has been awesome. Thank you so much again for coming on the show. I know that the audience is going to gain a lot of value from this.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.